Hello everyone, my name is Anna, but you can call me Anchi, and I'm a host of the Binge on Self-Love podcast. Welcome back. I hope you're doing well, starting your week off on a positive note. Today's episode is for anyone and everyone who needs to hear this right now. You're not too old, and it's not too late. Hi there, my name is Anna, but you can call me Anchi, and I'm a host of the Binge on Self-Love podcast. If this is your first time listening, welcome and thank you so much for being here. And if you've tuned in before, it's great to have you back. Binge on Self-Love podcast started with me in my bedroom, recording and sharing my journey with binge eating disorder and with procrastination. But we are so much more than our eating disorder, and we are so much more than our problems. So this podcast is essentially about accepting yourself and everything that comes with it. Growth, pain, relationships, boundaries, habits, comparison, body image, confidence, you name it. Plus, you'll catch me having some insightful conversations with fantastic guests who open up and share their stories. So make sure to subscribe to the Binge on Self-Love on your favorite platform and join me every Tuesday for a brand new episode. Binge on Self-Love podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It doesn't provide professional medical advice, and it is not a substitute for diagnosis or treatment. To give you a little bit of context, why I just said what I said is that I can't help but feel more and more pressure to get certain things done and to achieve certain things the older I get. I think the pressure to get certain things done by a certain age is real for everybody, but especially for women. For us women, there is a socially acceptable age limit to when you are expected to build your career, when you are expected to settle down. There is an age limit by which you should get married, and if you miss it, then your chances of ever getting married shrinks every year. Then there's an age limit by which you're supposed to start having kids. There's an age limit by which you're expected to start dressing more modestly and stop showing your body too much. There's an age limit when dyeing your hair is no longer considered a choice but a necessity, and plenty more. And not so coincidentally, I think a lot of those socially acceptable age limits for achieving those things are somewhere around 30 years old. Not all of them, of course, but some of them. Somewhere in between all those expectations, you're trying to find some sense of yourself, what it is that you want to do with your life. And then when you feel like you figured it out and you figured out what you want, it suddenly feels like it's too late. I don't know, maybe it's just me feeling that way, but I've spent most of my 20s getting my degrees, working different jobs to figure out what direction I want to go in, building relationships, dealing with shits from the past, and all that. And now that I've turned 30, I should accept the fact that it's all downhill from here. No, thank you. Now let me say something that may sound like a detour, but it's not. I'm a planner. I love to get things written down in a planner. I love to schedule everything. I love setting goals and tick things off of my to-do lists. But I also struggle with some serious procrastination, which I've talked about on this podcast on numerous occasions. And being a procrastinator, it means that a lot of plans that I've made for my brighter future, I procrastinate on, meaning that I haven't yet achieved those things. And the older I get, the more obsessive I became about the idea that I have just this very limited amount of time to do all these different things that I want and that are on my bucket list. And the time frame of when I feel like I need to get all of these things done is shrinking with every year I get older, which then stresses me out even more. I feel that in general, from a certain point in life, the pressure is getting bigger each year as we turn another year older. But I'm wondering to what extent society is to blame for this and to what extent we put that pressure on ourselves. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if you achieved your goal at the age of 25 or at the age of 55. What matters is that you achieved it. It doesn't really matter whether you got your degree right after high school or if you took a gap year or 5 gap years or 15 years in between. There's no written rule besides our heads that if you don't get married before turning 30, you'll never get married, or some other stupid rules. However, I have to be honest, and the closer I got to turning 30, the more I started to panic, the more I started to feel really frustrated with myself, and each and every night I went to bed, I was thinking like, what if I already missed my chance at everything? I'll be 30 and that means I'll be too old for a lot of things. I'll be too old to start a business. I'll be too old to switch careers. I'll be too old to start over if my relationship doesn't work. And I better be having kids right now because I'll be 30 and the biological clock is relentless, you know? It feels like all those jokes and comments about how your life is over after your 20s are over really got imprinted on my mind more than I expected. And again, especially as women, the messages we're getting from everywhere about us getting older don't really make it any easier. Things like, your metabolism slows down after you turn 30. Here is a cream for your early wrinkles. Here's how to hide your cellulite. Here are some diet shakes and vitamins for women of your age. And don't forget, don't get too comfortable with yourself because your partner may no longer find you that attractive. You're not getting any younger, you know, and don't expect to find love easily at this age. One sentence, or should I say a really shitty and wordless piece of advice that I've ever heard, and that comes to my mind quite often, is once you turn 30, it's really hard to lose any weight. I've heard that advice when I probably wasn't even 20 at that time, yet it stuck with me ever since, and somehow it helped to create this narrative in my head that your life is basically over when you're 30, which is totally bullshit. Rationally, I know that, but somehow I've been feeling all this pressure for the past few months. Maybe it's not necessarily the age of being 30 itself, but more the fact that aging is perceived as something bad, as something that, again, especially as women, we should be afraid of, and we should do everything in our power to reverse it, or at least pause it for as long as we can. For some, the idea of getting old or older gets so dreadful they spend most of their time and money fighting it instead of enjoying the time they've been given. I often let the idea of age and getting older distract me, and I question whether it's too late for me to learn something, to start doing something, to stop doing something, to achieve something. But the truth is, age is just a number. It doesn't really matter how old you are. If you want to learn a new language, you can start now. It doesn't matter whether you're 20, 30, 50, or 80. Sometimes I try to tell myself, what if age didn't exist? What if you didn't know whether you're 25, 30, or 55? Would anything stop you from doing what you want to do? And in most cases, the answer is no. I wouldn't find anything else stopping me from doing what I want to do. Maybe what we need is to stop obsessing about the fact that we're aging, because that's not going to stop or change. That's a natural part of being human. And instead of focusing so much on how to reverse the aging process or how to stop it, is to focus our energy and our time and our mind on doing things we want and going after those dreams. Also, we should stop comparing ourselves not just to other people, because there will inevitably be people who have achieved certain things at our age or even younger, but that doesn't really mean anything. If we spend all of our life worrying if it's too late, then it will eventually truly be too late. So it doesn't really matter whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 or older. If you have dreams, if you have goals, don't let your age limit you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate you listening. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, make sure to subscribe to the Binge on Self-Love podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube so you don't miss any future episodes. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back next week. Until then, take care and talk to you soon.